Yeah, man, it's really interesting.
Yeah. I think
Like
you're going to have a good album here, man. And you know what? It is interesting because it's different to what you did before.
exactly, it's very different, right? It's very different.
Now you need to look at things like dark energy, which is not, I don't know anything about really, but
Yeah,
dark matter, different ways of searching for dark matter.
yeah,
You have to look at CP violation now and
yeah,
neutrinos.
yeah, yeah.
Neutrinos now are much more important than they were to you before, because before
Of
we didn't
course.
really care about them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So these are
It's
things that would really help the universe a bit more.
yeah, yeah. And also like in terms of like the it's all with this it's about the questioning, which is very it's a very different kind of angle. Before it was kind of like, what are you doing? I want to know basically what we know. Whereas
Yeah, 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 yeah,
now
yeah.
it's kind of like I know for me anyway, it's to inspire the kids to think in that way, because a lot of
Yeah,
these things it seems to be like there's an observation made, and because of that observation now we know these things,
yeah,
and then we can test for that, and then we find that thing, and then there's a new observation, and it's literally that process over and over
yeah.
again. But
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
find it really, and that is really interesting because some of the earlier discoveries, for example, is literally just knowing that one star was dimmer than the other and something like that, and things are moving
Okay.
a further away, and it's
Yeah,
kind of like just refining that process over time
yeah.
to the point where you're doing these massive experiments, but it's still the same thing, right? You're
It's
looking at
still,
what
yeah,
putting in that number, and now because you have this number, now you can work out this thing and look for this, and then technology advances sometime down the line, and so you can finally test for it.
yeah. It's
So
true.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy the way that works, I think.
yeah, that's been like a massive common theme for everybody I've talked to. It's
Yeah,
often the same kind of thing you're saying, in terms of that process. So I think that process is is a important process to appreciate, I guess, if you're going to look into science and physics and stuff, because yeah,
exactly.
it's just quite powerful to take what you know, test for new stuff, and have an idea and then confirm it. I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. No, it's good. I think it's good. And it's, yeah. Um, oof, man, that was a good section.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I was gonna do a last kind of question.
Yeah.
Um, there's normally I ask like a kind of just a more random question. In terms of like, I think for what I'm interested in from you personally is when you talk about these things. Obviously, you have a bit of knowledge in terms of like you studied it and stuff, but stuff like quantum mechanics. Um, when I ask you questions, do you kind of visualize these things? Like, do you have like a way that you try to visualize it in your mind, or is it literally just like a factual kind of thing where you just remember it? Or obviously, if you've looked up a couple
Well,
of things,
as you've seen, I don't remember quite a lot these days, but
but in
I think,
terms of the principles, like,
yeah,
do you kind of understand it in such a way where you can imagine these things, or how does it?
not really.
How?
No,
Because okay, cool.
I don't picture it. I don't picture it. I don't like try and create a picture in my head. I think but some people do,
I
maybe.
try
I
to.
don't,
I definitely try to.
yeah,
When things make sense, when things are explained to me, I try to have some. It's like an abstract, though. It's not. It's not really like a thing. It's
yeah,
just like the concept itself kind of has a form.
yeah.
Um,
And I think a lot of people do visualize to help them understand and remember. I think, yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably quite a kind of personal thing, depending on kind of how you are best at understanding things. I
yeah,
don't tend to visualize things that well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I try not to visualize, or I don't visualize too many things like what we're talking about now, like quantum mechanics and particle physics. I don't try to visualize for some reason. But there are for example, other things in other parts of my academic stuff where I do try and visualize, to try and help me remember. So I don't know. I think you learn something, you kind of you have it in your head, but you don't have it immediately accessible. So I always find I need to read something, and then it kind of jogs my memory.
Yeah. So I'm asking that because it's kind of like with other people I've asked kind of like about public engagement and some stuff to do with what they think of the future. But we started with the future of, because you're very much on the forefront of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You've already started talking about things like 5 years into the future. So yeah, just the public engagement side. It's just a way for me to kind of see, because I try to make a visual kind of representation of some kind or something people can imagine, so that they can inspire them to ask those questions, because otherwise it's quite difficult to make that connection. As you said, it's a kind of personal thing. So I try to tap into the creative side of people's brains. But it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to know that you don't necessarily think of these things like that. How do you think of it then? Do you just how do you appreciate do you appreciate it in terms of what it might mean for the future discovery of things? Or do you see it like a maths puzzle or something
I think
like that?
I try to see it. I guess I try and put it in terms of big picture quite a lot. Like I try and always remember what the goal is of what we're doing, and try and retain the kind of view that, no matter how deep down in your little analysis structure you get, you still need to remember that at the end of the day, you're trying to put a tiny piece of the jigsaw in a much bigger puzzle about how everything works in the universe. And I think that kind of helps me keep perspective on what we're doing and stuff, because sometimes it's quite easy to get kind of, quite focused on something and forgetting a bit more about what the ultimate goal is of the project.
Yeah.
So I find that helps me kind of stay focused and remember what's going on, and that type of thing.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah, that was it. I'm gonna stop the recording now. Thank you very much for.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, we can obviously talk again whenever you want.